What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Favale coming at you with my certified fantabulous co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. It's win projection times. We begin with the Eastern Conference. The way this will work is Grant and I will go with the over-under. We will talk about whether we're going to go over-under and then give our actual record for the team. If you're watching along on YouTube, they will pop up on the screen. I'm excited to go 15-0 in the Eastern Conference this year. As a reminder, we do run our over-under competition. If you win, you get to pick whatever you want from our merch store, free of charge. We will send it to you. And you will have the option. You can decline. I don't know why you would want to. The last person didn't answer, so maybe you would want to decline. But you can come on, and you will be on a Guess a Player, a Gap segment or episode, whatever it turns into. There have not been a lot of people that have signed up just yet. So it's in our Discord. I will include the link to the Google Doc to where you just input your over-unders. Make sure to include your email and to actually title the tab. Those are only things you have to do. So go check that out. Join it. See if you can beat me and Grant. And quite a few people beat me last year. And then I would say a few people beat Grant.
Yeah, not quite a few, but still a solid number.
It was a smattering.
Enough. I would
it
say
was a healthy
enough.
smattering of people.
More than I would have preferred.
So come join that. And by the way, if you have not checked them out yet, we are doing look-aheads for every single team ahead of the regular season, but we talk about so much more. Like we talk about long-term futures. Go check those out in our audio feeds on YouTube. And if you haven't already, just subscribe, like the video, throw us hype points. Those apparently matter now. So hype us up. Tell your friends too. So help us continue to grow the podcast and YouTube channel. That's all I have, aside from this question, which is the most important question we will ask. Grant, how the heck are you?
Why don't you answer for me, since so many of your over-under totals are exactly like mine are? I assume you know exactly how I feel, because you seem to know what I think.
It is, what's interesting about that is because it's proof that, we're not necessarily conforming to each other on purpose, because you and I did not consult each other before we put them together. I was literally inputting them into the graphic before we got started. And the number of teams that it wasn't even within 1 or 2 wins. It was the same record is stupid.
There was a lot of giggling happening as you got to each team. It's like, how is it possible that we came so close on these two? Also, I didn't look at any over/under totals before we did this, so I wasn't even had we both done that, maybe that would have influenced us one way or the other, or pushed us closer to. Nope, just pure coincidence. I don't know. It's just groupthink, really, hive mind kind of stuff.
I tried not to expose myself to them this year, so I made the questions at the end of the look-aheads. How many games do you see your team winning, rather than citing the over-under? I was exposed a little bit because some people cited the over-under. But when I was going through them, I was interested to see. I didn't look at the over-unders. I was interested to see how close I was on certain ones. And a lot of them were just the same with you, where it's I was within a couple wins of what Vegas thought, apparently. And then there were certain teams where it was, you're 8 wins off of that. There might be something wrong here.
The other tricky thing about this every year is we both do make sure that we add up to an equal number of wins and losses, which that's how you should do it. But it also makes it, I feel like you're more likely to get a lot of teams wrong that way, because you realize, I'm 45 wins. I have way too many wins. So you start pulling them from somewhere, even though you already thought that this team was going to be really good. It's they can't win 54 now. They have to win 51 because I need those 3 wins for somebody, or I need 3 more losses somewhere. So it's just I'm going to toy one of these years with just doing it without trying to balance wins and losses, just to see if I could somehow be more accurate or get more of them right.
Next year, we should just not do records. We should just do the over-under and see if our winning percentage on that goes up, because we're not factoring that in. For me this year, though, normally I have to, or maybe not, I don't remember, but I feel like I have to cull wins from somewhere.
Yeah.
This time, here's a fun anecdote. I was doing it, and I saw I was almost 80 wins short. And I was like, that's insane. That's 3 wins a team.
Pessimistic.
Almost. It turns out I decided not to fill out the Spurs, and I left them at 0.
So and you had them for 80 wins. So
so it worked out. But once I penciled them in, I was still short a bunch, and I was like, I have to give team wins? That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah.
With that, though, we're going to go just straight alphabetically this time. You're welcome, everybody. I'm sure I made a mistake somewhere. But are you ready to get started, Mr. Hughes?
Absolutely.
The Atlanta Hawks, over-under of 47.5. That is decidedly not mid, Grant.
No. 40 wins last year. We both love everybody kind of has loved their offseason. So They get Jalen Johnson back. They also add Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They add Luke Kennard. They add, who's the third guy they added, Dan? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Kristaps?
That's the one. Yeah, our old pal Kristaps. So basically, like, go 8 deep, and they're all starting caliber players. So 40 is way too. They're going to beat last year's total of 40, and obviously the giant caveat for all these teams is as long as they have reasonable health luck. Relative to like the players that they have, that means something different for every team, I suppose. It's not the same thing for the Clippers as it is for the Hawks, for example.
They have Luke Kennard, Jalen Johnson, and Kristaps, so maybe.
Not the best. I should have picked a further apart team in terms of injury luck. So, what do you think, Dan? Do you want to give your win total here?
So I'm pretty bullish on the Hawks, I think, as anyone knows. So I went with 49 wins. And you ended up going with 46. That's decidedly the over, though. No, you have them at the under. I need you to justify that for me.
This is a good one. This is kind of a sweet spot over under because we're both exactly 1.5 wins separate from it, just in opposite directions. This is a case where I had to pull a couple wins. I might have had them at 47 or 48 beforehand. But I think a 6-win jump is substantial, right? Like that's maybe not quite reflective enough of the talent that they added. But maybe Porzingis doesn't stay healthy, that crazy illness thing last year, plus just has had injuries on top of that.
Your immune system shaming. I don't like it.
Yeah, we're not that far apart, but the fact that I'm under and you're over makes it more interesting because one of us will be right and one is going to be wrong. Let's start it out that way.
I totally understand the health concerns. We've yet to see Jalen Johnson be this version of Jalen Johnson and play in 65 plus games. Mm-hmm. I just look at it as Trae Young is going to be better. He has better talent around him, and just his efficiency last year specifically wasn't the same. I think they have better defensive talent around him. The one concern, aside from health, that I have for this team is, have they under-indexed on secondary playmaking? Because you can say, Jalen Johnson is there, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker can do some things, Luke Kennard can do some things. Maybe you want to test out more of the depths of Zachary Risache's game. Sure. But I don't know, of those guys, Jalen Johnson is getting there. But of those guys, it's, who do you, you need someone else to just break down a defense from scratch. And I don't know, is that Dyson Daniels? I don't think so.
Yeah, Daniels is he's another guy I thought you were going to mention in the secondary creation thing. More of a connective guy. Kennard is kind of I feel like it's just, we say the same thing about Kennard all the time. He's not just a shooter. He can actually run a pick and, but he's not a born playmaker. So I think that's a fair criticism. The defense has a chance to be pretty good, though. If Porzingis is healthy and you can have him and Okongwu as your guys in the middle, and Risache is solid, Daniels is great. They could be, they should be better than average on both offense and defense. And the offensive potential is very high because Trae Young has led really good offenses in the past. So, I think this is a mid to high 40s team. 50 is not off the table, I don't think. But I wasn't quite prepared to go that high.
So they are neither one of our best bets, though. We will single that out when we get to them. Mm-hmm. First person reveal, though, I'm going to implement this rule right now. We can't pick the same one. So whoever is the first to be able to reveal their best bet, that's the one that they get. We are on to the Boston Celtics, 41.5, Grant. Just before we get into the actual wins, what was your initial reaction to seeing them above 500 in that department?
It just felt high. I guess it's a nod to the talent that's still here. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, principally. I think the other thing we can just put the next graphic up if you want, because I'm going to refer to it. I went under here, and that's why what scares me, I had 37, you had 32, so you're even more bearish on this team than I am. Let me pose it to you then. What scares me is the Celtics' likelihood of just winning the math ball game by shooting even more threes and just increasing the variance, and maybe you run hot and you can beat literally anybody because you get up 65 threes or something like that. So they seem to me to have a pretty high variance potential, and they could steal wins they wouldn't otherwise deserve. Obviously, that cuts the other way. But we're both under here. Why does that not concern you? And then maybe talk about some of the downward pulling forces that got you down to 32.
Here's my thing.
Yeah.
They have told us through their actions that they are not trying to win this year. And so we're just going to assume that a team where the offense has Jaylen Brown as its best player, who's a fantastic player, but is he a number one option type guy for a full 82 games?
No.
No. The answer is no. And if they're the other thing, the real thing I'm factoring into this, though, well, it's two things. They're going to get out of the tax. And whether that happens by trading Anthony Simons or just dumping Sam Hauser and doing something else, that will make you worse in all likelihood. I don't think you're shaving $12 million of salary or whatever, 13, and getting better. And then the final thing, and they should actually be destroyed if they don't do this, is just lean into the gap year. Get
Right.
Jaylen Brown, who was banged up beyond comprehension last year, some rest. If you want to bring Jason Tatum back, and he said that he informed or what was the report that he informed the Celtics that he wants to come back, I'm not against it towards the end of the season just to try and get his sea legs about him. But like, what is the incentive that this team has to chase? If we're sitting there in February after the All-Star break and they're on pace for 42 wins or 41 wins, why are you leaning in to that ceiling?
It's not like you've got a bunch of young guys that need the playoff experience. Let's get them in a play-in game so they can be tested. That's just not it.
I think maybe they want to get him some postseason.
Get him some looks. I think it's smart that you went that low because if it's close, I think they should just pack it in. I didn't go quite as low as you did because I think Joe Mazzulla would lose his mind if forced to really abjectly tank. So we're both in the 30s. This is a pretty clean under for me and definitely for you.
I will say I came very close to just making this my best bet, but I don't want to rule out that the Celtics or Peyton Pritchard ends up winning like MVP or something.
Sure,
I try to account for that. That's always a possibility. You want to take it to the next team?
Yep, this is the Brooklyn Nets. Their over-under is 20.5. They won 26 last year, spurred by a 9-10 start that they could not erase those early wins, and that's how they got there. We talked to Lucas Kaplan, and I think he definitely put it out there, and I think we both kind of agree. The Nets are probably going to play hard. They do have veteran-led lineups that can be pretty good if they want to. Now, they shouldn't because they also have 100 rookies that all need to play and probably should all have the ball. Yeah, 100. So hold on, 104 rookies, all first-rounders somehow. I don't know how that worked. So 20.5 is a low total. They're gonna have to try, I think, to get down to that number, and I don't think they're gonna pull it off. I think they're gonna be just over at 21, and of course, this is the first instance of a perfect agreement between the two of us.
I wanted to reinforce the over without having to like go too far into the win column, so they made it okay. This is over now. I don't have to add any wins to them.
Yeah.
I ended up pulling away from them. I think I had like 24, 25, but for the purposes of hitting the over-under, I was like, no, this works. You said it. That's just such a low total, and just look at how the team started under Jordi Fernandez last year, and I think that they will win games they're not supposed to because teams will be sleeping on them, and like you said, they'll try hard. And then I really just believe, okay, cool, they could shut down whoever they want. There's no one on this team that they could shut down, and you like feel materially worse about their chances of winning a game in March or April.
Right. I do think like this is sort of two teams because if you just make sure that it's Jemin, Saraf or Traore, if those guys are handling the ball all the time and running the offense, yeah, you could win in the teens. Like that's the best way probably to just make sure you're a bad team is have rookies do a lot of the heavy lifting. But it's like, what do you do with all these like Michael Porter Jr. is a good NBA player. Nick Claxton's a good player. Like we even like Noah Clowney's an interesting. I mean, he might pop. Like there's Cam Thomas is gonna score. Like there's a bunch of guys that could all they're gonna have to bench these players. That's just what's gonna have to happen, and I think they'll do it.
I think the other thing too is, and this doesn't spoil anything. They don't need to win 17. The Laterians are. You want a bottom four record. 21 wins or 24 wins might even get you. You don't need to be like, you don't need to be a 15-win team. And so I think that will factor in as well. We're on to the Charlotte Hornets. They're always such a tough team. I could talk myself. They're 26.5 is their over under. I could talk myself into a lot more than that. I'm not going to lie. And I want to start before we reveal it. Can I ask you, what's the case of them winning 26 or under games?
The easy answer is LaMelo gets hurt again and the offense falls apart. Which is, again, we don't just paint with the broadest injury brush. Like, he just hasn't stayed healthy. So for this team, that's not just some hypothetical concern. It's a real one, and it's one that has affected their record for several seasons. So that's the starting point. And then I think you look at Concanipple, we like him. That's another rookie that maybe if he's going to play a lot, that's going to hurt the offense. That's going to hurt the defense. And Brandon Miller, maybe that step forward in terms of volume doesn't bring efficiency this year. Like, there's just, and then really, Dan, the center rotation is as rough, right? And so
which
this
center
defense
rotation
has
would
no
you rather
hope.
have, Charlotte's or New Orleans's?
All I
Or
will say is
Boston's.
that Charlotte's clearly the worst in the East, and New Orleans is clearly the worst in the West. This defense has no chance of being good because the center play is going to be so rough, and throw in LaMelo and a bunch of young players so that's how you get all the way under 26 is maybe a key injury, and the defense is going to just give everything up at the basket, right? Like, those are my two keys. Do you have more?
No, I think it's just LaMelo, and then it would be did Brandon Miller, who did what we see before his injury, was that sort of a sign of things to come where it felt like he might have maxed out on the offensive end.
So what's the upside case, though? Because I like you could talk me into like 37 if a lot broke right? You can get way into the 30s.
Right, because if you look at the setup of this roster, LaMelo plus shooting is not something that we've seen consistently, and not something we've seen for at least 3 or 4 years. If we go back and look at like where his teammates ranked in 3-point efficiency off, it is putrid. It's just absolutely atrocious. So if he's healthy and he has spacing, yeah, he's still going to do things, and he will infuriate you with the plays he doesn't make on defense, some of the shots he takes on offense. But I really think, I don't want to use the phrase reined in necessarily, but I feel like we could see more of an even-keeled LaMelo on the offensive end because there's offensive talent actually around him. So the case for me is just if he plays in 65, 70 games and they remain relatively healthy, is the offense just so good and they rip off, when you get to play, there's really good teams in the East, but just think about the morass of the East where it's like against the Miamis, the Torontos, the Chicagos, they could pick up wins against those teams and all of a sudden find themselves high 30s, maybe even low 40s.
And I think, too, you can be a LaMelo skeptic in the sense that you're not convinced that you're convinced that he's unserious and he can't be the driving force on a team that does something in the playoffs. That can still be true, but also LaMelo could lead an offense that ranks like 8th or 9th in the league, and they still win 34 games or whatever because the defense is 27th. Like that, you can have questions about LaMelo impacting winning at the highest level. That's way different than saying he can't lead a really good offense that wins you in the 30 some odd games, right? So I don't know. I'm just saying there's a decent spread here for this team.
Needless to say, we both went over because the 26.5 is just, we're going to assume that LaMelo plays in 38, 40 games again. And look, it's a distinct possibility, but it just sort of feels it's not 26.6 with the graphic on screen. Shout out me. So I have them at 33 wins because the other thing about this front office, I don't think it certainly wouldn't be the reason they hit the under, but they have made moves at each of the past 2 trade deadlines that shows they're more invested in the bigger picture. And let's say everybody is healthy. If they're only in the running for 10th or 11th place, I think that they will steer out of it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. I think on the one thing to think about with this team is because we do sort of agree that the front office, it has a long time horizon and is being patient and deliberate and making small moves on the margins. It also might be the kind of front office that really does just say, we kind of want a top 4 pick if we can get it. I don't know how you engineer that, but I wouldn't put it past them
Nico.
just because. Yeah. I think if you respect this front office, and we kind of do, you probably shouldn't rule out a tank if they see the opportunity. But that would require injuries, I think.
Who we got next?
Chicago Bulls, Dan, 32.5. Josh Giddey's Chicago Bulls. That I'm just going to start. That's low. That seems low. Look, all we know about the Bulls is they win between 38 and 42 games every year. I'm going to jump on it now. I'm going over, not by a ton, but this is my best bet. The Bulls are not going to win. They're not going to win 32 games because that's what they should do, and they don't do the things they should do. I have them at 38. You have them at 34. You're also over. I just think, okay, joking about the Bulls only winning like within this 4-game range aside, I think Giddey, I don't love him as a high-level winner, kind of same thing as LaMelo, but I think he's going to be a good player this year. I like Kobe White. Vucevic shot the shit out of it last year. He won't do that again, but he's a good offensive player. Modest Buzelis could pop in his second year. We like Ayo Dosunmu. There's just kind of enough here to not be a 32-win team to go under. So I don't know. Can I say that I don't like the Chicago Bulls, but I also think they're definitely winning more than 32 games?
To make them your best bet, Here's
the thing. All my other all my other win totals are so close to the actual over-under that, like, mathematically, this is my best bet. I think this is the furthest I was from the actual number.
That's a mic drop.
Yeah. Where's that been?
That's Grant. That's his best bet, the Chicago Bulls. I did not see that coming.
Lock it in.
I would echo everything you said. The 32.5, even though I have them at 34, which isn't much higher, I just, like, it almost assumes that this would be the team that has the foresight to trade Kobe White, to not play Nikola Vucevic or trade him. And we just know, I know they traded Zach LaVine last year, but we also just know that that's not typically how they operate. And so the path to them finishing under feels, it's not, I mean, Nikola Vucevic is probably way more important to this team than he should be. But to me, if they're going to keep Kobe White, if they're going to get, like, this implies, it's not injuries to me necessarily. It's like, this implies that they're going to be fire sellers. And they've never done anything remotely close to that.
No.
We move on to another team that is called the Cleveland Cavaliers. 56.5. Grant, what was your reaction to seeing 56.5 as their over under?
I mean, what did they win? What did they win last year? 59? I can't even remember now. It was a lot. It was more than this.
So they were at, last year they were at 64.
64. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of wins. So
when did they exit the playoffs though?
A little. Well, if you're asking about any of the last 3 seasons, a little earlier than they would have preferred. So this seems low, but I do think I imagine this has moved because coming off of last year, adding Lonzo, I guess Lonzo Ball's not a regular season player, but like some of the injuries that they're starting the season with have to have affected this number. And I think it affected my thinking about them too. So, like you would assume, I would have assumed this number before. Like, was there a moment where before we knew Garland was going to miss a bunch of time and before we knew Strus was hurt, it had to have been closer to 60, right? I would assume it has moved down.
I think after kind of the off-season storm of transactions were over initially, it was very easy to just talk yourselves into the Cavaliers as by far and away the best regular season team in the Eastern. Like, there's a chasm between them, Orlando, Atlanta, New York, anyone else you want to throw in there.
Right. I think you just have to factor in the injuries and just like, look, they're going to have my highest projected wins in the conference. That's more a statement of, I don't think anyone's running away with things this year. I've got them at 56. So do you. I've talked a lot. What are your general thoughts on the Cavs? I will just say before I turn it to you, like, I think the offense is just going to be really good because of the style they play, and Donovan Mitchell's great, and I think Evan Mobley will be better, and they can weather the Garland thing.
Those are all exceedingly hot takes that we cannot stand for. You've become too much of a contrarian for me.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I have them under is, so it's not even those injuries to Garland and Strus, but also the other thing is I like the Lonzo Ball addition, but like defensively, this team on the perimeter can get very weird very quickly. I know they have DeAndre Hunter, but he's always been a 6'8" body that you can throw at other premier players, and it's not always going to end well. The other thing is Dean Wade can handle a lot of that stuff when Dean Wade is available to play, which is also just not a given. And how many minutes can Dean Wade actually play if you're playing him? And you also, are you making any trade-offs you don't want to at the offensive end? So losing Isaac Okoro and going like to Lonzo Ball, who's a good defender, but he's not this lockdown one-on-one type of guy. He's just going to be more of a connective, disruptive, solid tissue on that side of the floor. I have like a pin in sort of it and saying, oh, could this team be, like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are on the court, the defensive rating, even if they don't rebound, it will probably be super elite. But I'm just sort of wondering, when you combine those questions on the perimeter with the injuries, Also with the fact that at this point, and this sounds like a contrarian take, or maybe it doesn't. This thing's going to get blown up if they exit, like if there's not a competitive second round series here this season. And so I think that they know enough to understand it's not about the regular season. And so we might see even more pullback. I mean, they won so many games last year while still pulling back. Maybe the East is better set up for that because of what's going on in Boston and Indiana. If they were fully healthy, if Darius Garland was going to be healthy to start the year, if Max Strus, maybe I could talk myself, and I could talk myself in the over right now. I just don't think they're going to go for it. Yeah, that's what I ultimately think it is.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't have anything really to add there. Other than I'm not ruling out the possibility that Evan Mobley is so good this year that whatever the Cavs do, they're just going over. But I'm conservatively just a half win under with you.
Who we got next?
The Detroit Pistons. I was surprised when I put my win total down. The over-under is 46.5, just to get that out there first. I feel like that's a great number because it kind of capitalizes on what I believe to be just a general sentiment that the Pistons are on the way up, right? Like they blew away. They're like 14 to 44 wins year over year. So obviously they're still getting better because Cade Cunningham is an all-NBA caliber player now. We believe in Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Stewart, all these young guys around them getting incrementally better. So why wouldn't they win a couple more games? Spoiler alert, neither of us have them going over. I've got them at 44 wins. What's your total on the Pistons here? Is it also 44? Yeah, boring.
Yeah, we both have 44. You know what gets
How do we justify this?
Here it is that because here's the guiding phrase for the Pistons. Progress isn't linear, which really is a nice way of saying that there's a chance that they're just worse in the win-loss column than last year or about the same. And yes, Cade Cunningham will get better, and I think you can still bank on growth from, for sure, Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, Jalen Duren, even Jaden Ivey. But here are a few things with me, is that we can't just look at Jaden Ivey's 30-something games left, whatever it ended up being, and decide that that is the new normal. He shot so well from three, and that's the new normal. He's also, I know players have done this, but he's coming back from a broken leg, and that's not an insignificant injury. They've also kind of telegraphed with their moves from the offseason that they're still going to prioritize development. They didn't make any big swings, and I think that was the right move. And so if you're going to give Asar Thompson and then even more so Ron Holland plenty of runway, I think there will be growing pains that come with that. I think they'll still be really good on defense, but I kind of think there's the potential for like the offensive floor, especially during the non-Cade Cunningham minutes, to fall out from underneath them. And the final thing I'll say is just, I don't know that I could think of like a more lateral offseason than going from Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, Simone Fontecchio to then Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert.
If Beasley does end up signing back with them, though, that addresses a lot of, I think, the concerns we share about their offense because like he's just better than Duncan Robinson. Now having both is even better because it's great because you put a pair of like just dead eye shooters out there.
It's skeleton key, yeah.
Yeah, so but I do think I think the best thing the Pistons can do is try to figure out, can we play Thompson and Holland together and how do they complement Cade? Probably not.
Can Duren be on the floor during that time?
Not well right now. But you've got to take a look at that. And that's going to hurt the bottom line because you probably could get to the high 40s if you didn't prioritize developing these guys that I think we both like a lot long term. Like if you just assume Beasley's back, play him more, play Duncan Robinson a lot to get the floor space with Tobias Harris. And, there's ways for the Pistons to be better in the short term, I think. But I think and I hope they won't pursue those because they realize that it's just more valuable to get Thompson and Holland like real exposure in lineups that might 3 years from now be a conference finals type of thing. Like I think that's part of the reason we both like them, but I think just going with the same win total as last year is just feels about right.
I think they would need to see an offensive leap from either Holland or Thompson or end up trading for not like an option, but like some type of a different look at forward than Tobias Harris, or maybe even more of a floor spacing five to give their lineups a different feel for them to be, we're like a 50-win team now.
Yeah.
I don't like, and I would almost say that I think it needs to happen externally. When I say needs, I don't mean go out and do it, Pistons. I think what they did this offseason was like, I think that's the patience is the right play. But I don't see anything internally happening that would get them to 50-win territory. Maybe that's an underestimation of Cade or some of the young guys there, though.
Yep.
We are on to the Indiana Pacers, who do not have Tyrese Halliburton, and so their over-under checks in at 36.5. Before we reveal, tell you what my first reaction was when I saw this?
Please.
I penciled in my wins, and so when I did all that thing, I went and I unblacked out the over-unders, and I thought I was being too generous with the amount of wins that I was giving them. They got rid of the entire identity of their team. They didn't get rid of. He's injured. And then you let someone else who's a huge part of the identity of your offense, even if you want to point to his shooting percentage in the NBA Finals, in Miles Turner, to a center rotation that is Jay Huff, Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman's in there. We'll see Siakam and Obi Toppin at the 5. It's become a cliche to just cite their net rating together last year. What are we? I feel like they have that finals sheen. I think we might be giving the Pacers too much credit for what they could be without Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner on the roster, and no suitable replacements for either.
I think to go over here, you have to be so sold on play style, on Rick Carlisle, on just this sort of collective, we play harder than everybody and we move the ball more quickly than everybody approach. And you have to be sold that all that works without one of the single best offensive players in the league and one of the 3 centers that can space the floor and defend the basket. So that was too much for me. It was too much for you. We're both under pretty comfortably. I've got him at 33 wins. You've got him at 34.
34.
So, I mean, I believe Tyrese Halliburton is like a transcendent offensive, just changes everything about how your team plays. And if you just don't get to say, well, Nembhard's going to be pretty good there and Ben Matherin's going to shoot a lot more and Siakam can scale up. It's just yeah, that might all be true. You don't have Tyrese Halliburton. That's just, I'm not getting past that. That's such a huge loss. And now TJ McConnell's going to start the season hurt too. So Nembhard is just already got to guard the best guard on the other team and now just is the only point guard. It's just too much.
And Ben Mathurin playing for his next contract makes me a little queasy. Not going to lie.
He's going to go up this year, Dan. He's going to shoot a ton.
And I think that will contribute to their lottery odds, quite frankly.
Agreed.
And that's, by the way, I know it's taboo to say that this team could pivot and decide to tank. This team could pivot and decide to tank. You don't have Tyrese Halliburton. They probably
they
should.
got their pick back.
Right, and you could do something where it's, I know, maybe a Nembhard and a Siakam, they don't want to, Nesmith don't want to be a part of that, but if you just get to February and you're decidedly a 36-win basketball team, what else is there for you to do? Right. I am interested to relitigate the Tyrese Halliburton trade when the Pacers win 33 and the Kings win 35. I think that's gonna be a really instructive discussion.
That is not a case I thought we would be reopening after last year, but here we are.
The Miami Heat, Grant, I'm going to spoil this one even though it's yours and just let you know that it's happening. They are my best bet at 37.5. So I went over. That is why it's my best bet. Shocker. I have them at 40. What do I have them at? 44 wins. Their offense, they're trying to play faster. It hasn't always looked great in the preseason. I get it. Norman Powell's a perfect fit for this team. I think Tyler Hero, he's going to begin the season injured, but he's better than people are expecting. I don't expect Bam to shoot 19% at the rim the entire year. And I know he had some iffy jump shooting numbers last year. This team is kind of sneaky deep to me. I think they found something with Nikola Jovic in the starting lineup and just what he's able to do even as a passer. I think bringing Khalil Ware off the bench so that you could stagger him and Bam Adebayo makes all the sense in the world when you look at what Khalil Ware wants to do on offense, which is he doesn't want to just be in place in space. He wants to screen. He wants to be able to move. He wants to do some things with the ball. Now, they don't have an elite primary playmaker, ball handler guy. That's what everyone wants to point out. I think they can kind of piecemeal it together with Pele Larson or, man, I was not the biggest fan of Kasparas Jakacionis. And then watching him, not even more so in Summer League, but through the preseason, he just sees things. And even when he's not finishing, he gets deep into the paint. Like, he is drawing two to the ball. That's going to open up the entire offense. And I also kind of think, I like some of the other guys too. Drew Smith, like, just, by the way, tore his Achilles in December and is already back playing basketball. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. I think this team is deeper than people are crediting. And the final thing I'll say is this is like kind of the team that Eric Spoelstra was born to coach, it feels like. The expectations are pretty much gone. You don't have to deal with any star drama. And you don't have, I know they only won 37 last year, so it might think, oh, you traded Jimmy Butler midseason, still only got to 37, and you think they're going to be better. Not having to deal with the specter of that BS and knowing how to like run your offense without him there, I think winds up being a really big deal. So I think they get to 44. I think they will, I don't know if 44, we'll have to look at, does 44 get you in the top 6 in the East? I'll look at my standings. It does. So I have them 6th in the Eastern Conference. I think this is the team that we're going to look back on unless there's like a really big injury. And I don't foresee them, by the way. They extended Jovic. So I don't see them being like, we need to move Andrew Wiggins so we could cut his player option from the whatever. I think that this team understands if they get another star, it's going to happen via trade. So I don't think that they're going to make that trade this season. I just think that they're going to come together to be a really solid basketball team. And finally, I say this knowing that statistically, their offense has been dog shit in the preseason.
Well, I think it's a pretty clear over to. I'm not quite as high as you are. I have them at 40, just 500, 41 and 41. I think the offense can be on the high end, like the 15 to 20 range. And then the defense should be top 10, and that's enough to be 500 to me. It's to get significantly below 500 to hit the under here. I don't know what you're thinking beyond like other than like a Bam injury or something. Just because you're getting full years.
He injured his knee the night we're recording this. By the way, doesn't look like it's serious, but
I just want everyone to know I didn't know that, and it happened before I said.
Grant, much like me, does not watch games. So there was no way of him knowing that.
I manifested it accidentally. I just think full year of Davion Mitchell, full year of Wiggins, plus Bam, plus you can play, like Pelle Larsson's going to be fine. Like there's 11 dudes on this team that I think will all compete and be value adds on one end or the other. I do think there are issues with and this has been the case with the Heat forever, where if you're trying to score, that means you're playing Hero and Norm Powell together. That backcourt defense is going to suck. Or if you want to just play your best defenders, get Davion Mitchell out there. I don't believe in his shooting from last year. I think he's going to defend hard and be probably a net positive player, but that's going to be all on the defensive side. It's going to be difficult for them to field lineups that are competent on both ends. They're going to almost have to pick and choose, I think. That's just, to me, what a 500 team looks like, though. So under 37 or fewer wins is hard to get to, especially with, like you said, this is compared to last year, this is just a normal basketball team that Eric Spoelstra can coach how he wants without any kind of nonsense going on.
This is not related in the slightest, but did you happen to take a look at that NBA GM survey?
I have not seen that yet, Dan, no.
So 29 GMs, because the Heat's front office can't vote for Bam. 29 other GMs made votes for the most versatile defender in the NBA. I'm not even saying Bam needed to win, even though he'd be my pick. Grant, he didn't receive a single vote. Isn't that absurd?
That's rough. He's on the very short list of players you would nominate for that, right? That's what I don't know what happens with those surveys.
Dyson Daniels getting votes was weird.
He can't guard centers, can he? Isn't that part of being versatile? Like Dyson Daniels? I
don't even know. Do you think that it's just Bam has become it feels like he's become blah on offense to a lot of people, and they let that kind of infect their overall view of him. So these discussions come up, and we're going to go with the shiny new player in Ahmed Thompson, or even Asar Thompson, who I love, got a vote. He wasn't even in others either. Receiving votes.
Yeah.
I'll listen to Jaren Jackson. I'll listen to Tamani Kamara. I'll listen to Draymond Green. There are names we'll listen to, but did not get a single vote.
Yeah. Unfair.
I gave the Heat an extra win just because he was snubbed.
I'll take Milwaukee. Dan, their over-under is 42.5 wins. Just to recap, Damian Lillard gone. They won 48 last year, in large part because he was a very helpful offensive player. Miles Turner also a very helpful offensive player, different position. Everywhere else on this roster, man, there's a lot of minimum guys. There's a Kyle Kuzma sprinkled in there. Who's the Bucks' third best player?
Damian Lillard's dead cap hit.
Yeah. It's hard, right? I don't know, Gary Trent. I'm sure
AJ
there's somebody.
Green?
AJ Green, Ryan Rollins, because he's such a good defender and everyone thinks he's going to pop. I don't even remember what I did. Okay, let's pull up our numbers here. I went under by the slimmest of margins. I went 42. You went over 43, slimmest of margins. This is just Giannis is great, right? That's like kind of the end of my analysis because I don't believe in almost anything else other than Turner is a good fit next to him.
Right, and it's also we're so close. We're within a win. Honestly, it is borderline reckless having them over 40 at this point because they're just like one Giannis twisted ankle away from being the third worst team in the East. But the other thing is, we haven't talked about the rumor from Shams that he wanted to go to the Knicks over the offseason, which, shout out me, obviously, that's first and foremost. But second of all, Doc Rivers had come out and said, like, oh, that felt kind of like you made the initial report, and so you expanded upon the reporting of it. Mm-hmm. No, Giannis is just saying all these things. He doesn't remember a discussion he had with your owner. He's talked about how he could change his mind in the future. You needed to sign his entire family tree to some sort of NBA contract to keep him happy. And the biggest justification for the Alex Antetokounmpo signing is, well, like he's been on the herd for a while. That doesn't change anything.
Why was he on the herd?
It's not an insult to him. Some people think he's a legitimate prospect. That's fine. But, like, you guaranteed Thanasis Antetokounmpo's contract. It's just, I don't think he gets traded midseason because that would just be so hard to work. Mm-hmm. We did just see Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis get traded in the same transaction, though, so maybe not midseason. But it's almost reckless of me to say, like, they're going to have a winning record, even though Giannis has, like, wandering eyes to the upteenth degree. The only thing that you can cling to, and I don't mean to make this all about the trade, is he kind of said, like, no, you think about your future right up until the start of the regular season, and then you stop. Mm-hmm. So I respect that, but I also think that, like, low-key, like, he's the biggest troll in the NBA with the way that he kind of runs the tables on his future, and it's just, he openly flip-flops. There's a part of me that respects it, and then is also just, this feels like a ticking time bomb at this point.
And, I mean, the practical side of what you're talking about is that his actions have put the Bucks in position where they've just mortgaged their future over and over and over again to try to keep him happy. And the result is Giannis, Dame dead cap hit, Miles Turner, and one of the worst rosters in the league outside of those guys, right? Like, this is a team where you said it, like a Giannis injury, a tweaked ankle, Milwaukee's drawing dead every night. Like they're not going to win games if he's not there, and he's going to miss time because he's getting older, and he does. So the fact that we're both over 500 is really just a testament to he's one of the 5 best players in the league, and when he's available, the Bucks can beat anybody because he's great. And like, end of analysis. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's really sort of where I'm at.
Here's my question to you. What's more likely? They get to 48 or more wins, or Giannis gets traded by the February 5th deadline?
Giannis gets traded. I don't see a 48-win team here, even if Giannis is very, very healthy. I don't know how you get there.
Next up, we have your New York Knicks. They're at 52.5. How are you feeling about that number?
You'll be delighted to know I think they will win more than 52.5 games, Dan.
But is it fewer than 70? Because then I'm going to be upset.
It's a little fewer, a little bit less. I have them 53. You have them at 57. I don't know what
55.
else.
55. Let's relax.
55. Sorry, I looked at the 27 there. 55 for you. 53 for me. We're both over. I think this could go into the high 50s if they want to. I don't know if they do. But if the number 1 seed is there and Cleveland is worse than we think at that 56.5 number, who knows? They might push for it. I just think they're better. They're deeper. They, if Mitch Robinson is fully healthy and plays as much as he can, Mike Brown's going to deploy this team maybe more sensibly than Tom Thibodeau did. I don't know. I feel pretty good about the over, even though I'm very close to it. Is there though, Dan, like, part of the switch from Tibbs to Mike Brown is he's not going to run his best players into the ground, and that's going to lower your regular season win total ceiling? Is that something to think about, or is just the overall package better so they'll win more?
I think that's actually fair to consider, and I don't believe that they're actually as deep as people are making them out. I just feel like Jordan Clarkson at the minimum is getting a lot of more love than he warrants. What I will say, though, is watch like watching them in the preseason, there are two things that really stand out. They are going to get to Deuce McBride plus the other four starters units. It won't be the starting lineup, even though I think it should be. They're going to get to it. They're also going to get to other 5-out units, like with the bench, where like Gershon Yabusele and Karl-Anthony Towns are playing together, or maybe it's just Yabusele at the 5. And they're also, so last season, about 6-7% of the Knicks' minutes came in what would be called 3-guard lineups. That number is, I think, going to triple. And that's going to increase your number of 5-out looks. And yes, you'll be smaller, but like you're going to be way more versatile on the offensive end then. And I think that they telegraphed this. We've seen it in the preseason, but I think they telegraphed this by saying, we want 2 of Landry Shamet, Gareth Matthews, and Malcolm Brogdon on this roster. I think that spells good things for their offense. I still don't know what to make of the Karl-Anthony Towns needs to spend a lot of time at power forward when the whole idea of him is as a floor spacing 5. I really like the concept of OG Anunoby and Mike Brown's offense. The fact that they're playing faster, they are getting up more threes. I think that I don't know that I feel comfortable saying that they could beat X amount of teams in a 7-game series. Like, how do they match up with Cleveland? How do they match up with OKC? How do they match up with Denver? Those elite teams. But I really think that this is a team that doesn't need to run its players into the ground and is going to be deployed in such a way on the offensive end that they're going to be so good. And that if they wanted to, they could get to 60. But that there will be some pullback there. And just like even just a couple other notes, like Mikal Bridges seems like because there's some extra spacing there, getting all the way into the paint on his drives and not bailing out. I think there's going to be a lot of smaller things or medium-sized things that they get better at that are going to help them just be in the mid-50s while having, Jalen Brunson. It's not going to be, Mikal Bridges is playing 47 minutes in a 30-point win over the Hornets in January or whatever it is.
Yeah. Do you think it's fair to say that under 50, I know it's not the over-under, but if they win in the 40s, something happened, right? Like this is just a 50-win team because of the high-end talent, the way they'll be coached. And even though I agree, maybe the depth is overblown, but like, this is a 50-win team. They have to win over 50.
Right. I think there's like a lot riding on this season. I don't know if you count the number of teams that have the most on the line this year to where you could see their roster like really being changed. It's the Knicks, the Cavs, and like maybe the Nuggets, but like not really. So Minnesota perhaps. So the Knicks are just like they need to be in the 50s. They need to make. I won't go as far as the NBA Finals. They need to do better in the Eastern Conference Finals than they did last year. It's high stakes. What's interesting about them, though, Grant, is I think that they're shallower than people are saying, but I also kind of feel like they're in a situation where they only have one player they can't lose. And I think you could even say, if you did lose Jalen Brunson for a spell, like you could probably carve out enough offense with Towns and Bridges and Anunoby and Deuce McBride in a Mike Brown system.
You could break even, I think. I think that's that over, if you lost them for 10 games, that's not out of the question.
I don't know what to think of them on defense, by the way, would be the other. Like if we were trying to make the case for the under aside from injuries, it's okay, the Mitchell Robinson minutes, sure, but I just don't know, like I don't know. The defense, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of penciling it in for like 15th or 16th, and I think if you can get to a point where they're saying they're going to use Mikal Bridges not at the point of attack, away from the ball more, if you're able to do that, that's probably the best recipe for it.
I'm actually more concerned with their playoff defense than regular season because I can't get what Andrew said on the look ahead we did out of my head about what if Atlanta just spams pick and rolls against Brunson and Cat like in a playoff series or hunts those two. What do you do? Like that's not a regular season thing because nobody's like scouting you to within an inch of your life and using their absolute A+ option against you over and over. That's a playoff thing. So I am concerned about, but it doesn't affect their regular season win total for me.
Well, all right, but then also we have to kind of factor in that February Giannis trade. That'll probably give them a nice little bump, right?
So just like clip this, and we'll come back and we'll redo it after they trade for him.
Who's up next?
Orlando Magic, kind of along with Atlanta, but almost to a greater extent, like the riser in the East, I would say. Their over-under is 50.5. Added Desmond Bane, added Tyus Jones, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, still definitely young enough to improve. Hopefully Jalen Suggs is healthier. That is a very good number. It was not good enough for either of us to go over. We've got them both at a matching 49 wins. I will just say that Jalen Suggs not being ready to start the season is a huge concern for me because that's not someone. Tyus Jones does not replace him. That's not Anthony Black does not replace him. Desmond Bane is a good facilitator for a 2. He doesn't replace him. So that's a big deal for me. I think Suggs is one of the most important starters on any of the good teams in the East. And that injury has me a little worried. I like basically everything else they do. I think their defense will be good. I think Paolo should be better. 49 wins is 8 more than last year. So this is not to say that we don't like Orlando. I think we both have them 3rd in the conference. But for me, it's the Suggs thing. And for me, I'd still like to see Franz Wagner prove he can shoot a 3, and really Paolo for that matter, too.
Also, I mean, Jace Richardson can shoot 3s. Maybe
he's going to play. I think he's really going to matter.
He's probably going to usurp Tyus Jones in the rotation at some point, I would think. My thing with them is their secondary, because their secondary wing depth is not great. Like, are you trusting Noah Penda? Like, there's a lot riding on Tristan da Silva. They still don't have enough shooting on this team. You kind of alluded to it with the Suggs injury, but the fact that John Suggs has had one really good shooting season where he's also been healthy. One. And he's been in the league for 4 years. So it's just like, we're just assuming that Desmond Bane's enough and then Tyus Jones enough, even though we kind of know that Tyus Jones isn't going to play that many minutes if Jamal Mosley continues his MO of favoring the guys who are going to give you more defense. So 50.5 is just high. And then also, how many minutes and games can Jonathan Isaac play in? Wendell Carter Jr. feels like he's due to deal with something. I don't think you don't worry about Paolo and Franz specifically, but the Franz thing on offense, I just don't like. I think he needs to shoot 3s because he's the one that's playing the more traditional wing position at this point. Still going to be a really good team, and I actually think that they're as constructed right now, without making any other moves or maybe caking in any leaps from someone we're not accounting for. They're a scarier playoff team than they are a regular season team, which I feel like maybe you should flip-flop because don't a lot of people think that like uglying it up and playing elite defense is a way to win a bunch of games in the regular season. Just based off what we've seen from them in the playoffs so far, every team that's played them has sort of felt them. And so if you just have Desmond Bane scoring and shooting through the muck, I think it makes you a lot more dangerous there than in a regular season setting, but we'll see.
What do you think about this idea that, I don't know. I'm trying to tier the East here, and I think if I told you that Suggs is going to play 60 games, and the other 4 starters, Bane, Banchero, Wagner, and I assume Wendell Carter Jr. Also, Wendell Carter Jr. is not going to shoot 12% from 3 again. If all those guys play 60 plus, this team is way closer to the New York, Cleveland tier than it is to the Atlanta, Detroit, Miami, Milwaukee tier in the East, right? It's like they kind of belong up there with those guys if they get decent health from all the key guys, in the, top 7 or 8 of the rotation.
I think I'm with you because what you said earlier in the podcast about what if I don't think they're on the same level right now. Evan Mobley's better, but you just said what if Evan Mobley just gets better and he's the 67 win superstar. Paolo has that type of ceiling, and it's really just for him. It's, did he take 5 3-pointers a game and hit 37% of them? And then it's, oh crap. The final thing too that worries me about this team is I guess it's very clear that they're just never still going to get out in transition. Is that just disallowed in Orlando? I don't understand.
It also, you talked about kind of a make or break or pivotal. This is kind of a Jamal Mosley, what do you got season? Because the talent's there now. And I think if it's proven again that he's gets guys to play hard and he's got a defensive scheme that works, but the offense is just not up to par for what the talent needs it to be, he might be somebody that's not back.
I will say we didn't have this as a category, but if I was to pick my least confident bet, I think this would be it because you laid out the case for this team just winning in the mid-50s before.
For sure. Yeah, it's a very scary under, but I think there's real reasons to go under though, by a tiny bit.
We are also a fearless people at this podcast. We have fuck it. Do we even have to do this? I don't like this. The Sixers are a 42.5, and here I want to preface everything that we're about to talk about with this is that they're either going to win 12 games or 60. There's just no in between. There's just no in between for the Sixers. Is there what is the scenario in which they get to 40s? I just don't it comes down to how many games do you think Joel Embiid and Paul George are going to play in? To me,
Yeah,
that's it.
and guess what? Nobody knows. And so, like, I feel like this over/under just splits the difference in what you're talking about. Like, the ceiling and the floor are so far apart. We both, again, this is another ridiculous one. We both had them at 42, which I think I can imagine it just at the same time across the country. We both just like threw our hands up and we're like, I don't know, man, whatever. And like, that's just how we got there.
I really was hoping they were going to be like a 36.5 or something that felt a little bit, or like a 40, not like something 47.5 or 36.5 that would have made it easier because okay, they get to 42 wins. How many games do you think Joel Embiid needs to play in for them to be exactly 42? Because if he plays in like 65, there's no way they're just a 42-win team.
Right, because that would, if he's playing that often, it's a pretty good bet that he's actually looking pretty good and playing not like he's played the last year or so, right? Like, if he plays that much, he's probably going to be pretty good, and so they'll blow this number away because he'll just be like an all-NBA version of himself.
Yeah, like, so even 60, if you said he play, because he's not going to play him back-to-back, so there goes like 15 or 16 games, whatever, right off the bat. So if he plays in 55 or 60... Like, don't you just assume they're a 42-win team? At least
I think they might be better than that. I'm assuming he's going to play in like 30 or 40.
I think. So I'm trying to figure out what would be the case to go. How many games does Joel Embiid need to play in for you to have been? Oh, I'm going to go with the over.
I mean, 60 would definitely do it.
We've got to say like 42, 43.
50. It might be tempting to say 42 just for some symmetry. He needs to play at least half the season. So 41 for them to get to 42 wins. No, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying though about how like if he plays, let's just use that 41. If he only plays 41 games, I would assume that means that there's fits and starts to him coming back. He does the thing where he plays a couple games. Oh, there's knee soreness. He misses 2 weeks. He's terrible for the first 3 games, and then he looks like himself, and then he tweaks something, and he's in and out. So, like, he needs to but if he plays 65, that means he had prolonged stretches of what I assume is going to be, like, pretty Embiid-like play. So, if he's at that number, like, yeah, they win 50 or whatever, 55, whatever it is, right? And then, honestly, like, the Paul George of it all, like, doesn't really matter that much to me. I think at this stage of his career, like, he's not an all-star anymore. So it's like, you can't tie it'd be like tying the Heat's success to like Andrew Wiggins or something. That's maybe a bit of a slight, but it's like, I'm not expecting all-star play from Paul George. He's a really good player, but like Tyrese Maxey matters more, right? Like I think pretty clearly. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this team. Just like, we agree, they could win next to nothing, or they could be second in the East, like, and anything in between.
If you were evaluating this team completely without Joel Embiid, what would their ceiling be? Is it even
their
this,
ceiling?
I guess is my question. So, Joel Embiid's not going to play.
At all.
Can they even get to 40 to 500?
I think this roster without Joel Embiid is is it worse than Milwaukee's? Just
No.
if you get Paul George,
Milwaukee
you get Maxey, you have they've got more talent, I think, right?
VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah, there's more. So I'd say it's funny, like with or without Embiid, I might have their win total like right around 42. What is happening? We need to leave this team alone.
Well, no, but you pointed it out in the middle of it to where it's, if he's only playing in like a middle rung number of games, it's the stop and start of it all. What does that do to his rhythm, everyone else's rhythm? And they've talked about like trying to install an offense that's not as reliant on Joel Embiid, or he's playing a different way. So does that make them better equipped to deal with him going in and out of the line? It feels a little Pelicans with Zion-y. Remember when it felt like they were building their team to where it's, we need to be good in the event that he doesn't play, rather than we need to maximize. It's not as stark for sure in Philly, because I think a lot of the talent can complement him. I also are they going to be better? They'll be better offensively than defensively, I think, because it's who's the wing. They have Justin Edwards and Edgecombe, and like, who are their wing defenders? What is Paul George doing? The backup center rotation is kind of iffy.
the Quentin Grimes of it all, who like what's his
my God.
commitment level going to be? How like what's his role going to be? Who knows? This is a confounding team. We're both under. We don't feel confident about anything.
Who is next up?
Toronto. The over-under for the Toronto Raptors is 38.5 wins. Quick recap. They have a lot of very talented players, and none of them seem to fit well together. They'll start quickly. Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl. Shooting is going to be a challenge. I think they should be a pretty good defensive team, like maybe even a very good defensive team. And then they also depend. This number is complicated by the fact that like there's a lot of young and even unproven guys that will have rotation roles, and we're not even sure like which ones that'll be of the like Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, Jamal, like Shed, Mobo. Like there's
Colin Murray Boyle's going to play.
Colin Murray Boyles. Like where does he fit into this? Like he fits very well in some of the wrong ways with like how this team skews talent wise, you know? So let's just put the numbers up. I've got them going over this at 41 and 41, and you've got them beating it by more at 43 and 39. Why?
Talent figures it out, man.
That's what you're. I mean, that's not like the wrong approach.
I think a lot of it is that the two things. Actually, it's the same for both players. Even three of their players. I think perception is just veered too far away from positive with Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram shot more threes last year before he was injured. There's value in having what he does on the ball. I also look at how RJ Barrett's usage type changed when he came to Toronto. Are you telling me Brandon Ingram's incapable of being used in a similar capacity? Now, if you're telling me that he's not going to be able to do anything off the ball, or that he's going to not even be able to catch the ball with like running and ahead of steam, let's have a different conversation. But then there's still Emmanuel Quickley, one of the most lethal off-ball and on-ball shooters in the league. Now, there needs to be some change with his drives. Can he facilitate better? Can he get deeper into the paint? And if he doesn't, can the floater at least begin to fall? Scotty Barnes, what does the shooting look like? Scotty Barnes is a really good player. And then as you kind of mentioned, there's a chance that they can be borderline defensive monsters. Like I think Colin Murray Boyles could come if he was going to be a regular rotation player as a rookie, and he'll just be excellent on defense right off the bat, which we've kind of seen more players of his archetype come in as rookies and just leave like this huge dent on the defensive end. There's a ton of talent here. So some of it's ill-fitting, but none of it feels like it's fatally flawed. And for me to, now, this is one of the numbers where you could talk me into the under without maybe going into injuries, but you're kind of saying that Brandon Ingram has no hope of making waves on this team. And you look at some of the base lineups when they've, on the rare occasions we've seen Scotty Barnes, Poeltl, and Emmanuel Quickley play together, like they've been really good. So you're adding Brandon Ingram into that equation, and it's why do you get worse in that scenario?
I think that's a really smart way to look at it, because I maybe I'm just telling on myself, but like I don't know why it is, but when it comes to the Raptors, we're all just focusing on like what their very good players don't do well. You know, like, oh, Brandon Ingram doesn't shoot enough threes and he doesn't defend. He's very screenable. Scotty Barnes can't shoot. Quickly can't say. Like, all those guys are just like no questions asked NBA starters. And like Barnes and Quickly have upside, right? Like, I think, I don't know why it is, but it's just so much easier to focus on the poor fit and like the couple of deficiencies that these guys have, where like they're all really good. And I think, you know, talent maybe will figure it out. And what if again, definitely not the Mobley level, probably not the Banchero level, but what if Scotty Barnes just levels up and he just becomes a legitimate star? Like, that's absolutely that's in the realm of possibility this season.
What's interesting is it feels like so much of the concern, in part because that's where so much of the talent is, but is rooted in what's happening on the perimeter. And then I look at the center rotation, and Jakob Poeltl's a good player, but his utility feels very context driven. And I don't love the context of this team for him. In certain lineups, sure. But in if you ever want to play Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes together, I don't love him there. And they don't have, enough change-ups at the center spot. Like, maybe Mamu can come in and stretch the floor, and then that gets really interesting. But then you're losing.
Key guy.
He is, but that's uncomfortable. That's an uncomfortable spot to be in also. I think someone flying under the radar, they need Ochai Agbaji to just be really good. Like that was like he's 3-and-D, plays within himself. They need that type, especially if I don't know what Grady Dick is anymore. He had that hot start to the season, seemed like he was gassed. I love what he could do as like kind of a movement guy, and in theory of everything he does on offense, it does seem like I'm curious, and this is more of a general question. Do you think it gets easier for him to be better now that if everyone's healthy, there's a very clear pecking order and he is just not inside the top 3 or 4 options on this team? And so it gets easier to kind of, I don't want to say box him into a role, but put him into a role where he doesn't have to try to do too much.
Yeah, I was going to say specialize. Yeah, I think maybe there is a case for that. I do think too, like there's a version of this team where Agbaji just becomes like vintage Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and he fits way better than RJ Barrett in that spot. And then everyone's talking about they'll trade Barrett for somebody that fits better. But if Agbaji, that's a stretch. But if he's just a pure 2 that shoots a ton of threes and defends and doesn't really do anything else, like the Raptors need that guy. I think because Barrett's not that guy. Barrett wants to put the ball on the floor, and like he's good at that. It's just there's not going to be room for him to do what he does best.
Do you know where some of RJ Barrett's best moments on a really good team came? When he was in bench heavy units with the Knicks. Sure, and so if that's what the role for him is in Toronto now, that could end up working out really well. Mm-hmm. So like him and Jakob Poeltl are the two that I look at. I don't know what their future is with this team, but it's not RJ Barrett specifically. I'm higher on, I think, his fit than I would be Poeltl's, but a lot of people believe that I underestimate Poeltl, which is kind of fine at this point. I would ask you, what's more likely? This team wins 45 plus games or like wins only 35. So 45 or more, or 35 or less. That was a journey for me to give you that question. Huh?
I'd go the 45 or more.
So would I. Is that weird?
No, I just think there's too many good players. Now, again, this is sort of a higher level thing, like more a playoff thing. Should they advance that far, where your deficiencies just get magnified? But there's just enough. There's enough talent here. There's enough size. There's enough like defense for sure. The floor's pretty high here. I don't know how the ceiling's not 55, but 45 is not crazy. They could easily do that.
Last up, we have the Washington Wizards, 20.5. That's higher than last year. Shout out to the Wizards.
Would it be hard to be lower? I was looking. I told you off air. I was looking at our last year's over/unders, and I forget who had what, but there was a 13 and a 15 in there, which actually that's comically low. I'll just spoil it. I don't have any over/unders, any win totals that low. They had the point differential of a 14-win team last year. So you've got them winning 10 more. You've got them at 24 wins. I've got them at 19. So you're over. I'm under. That's more fun. This is a really young team that, other than so here's maybe the way to put it is this. Who do you see of their first and second year crop of players, and let's say third because Koulibaly is more fun to include, has like an all-star ceiling in the future?
Great question. I think it's still Koulibaly and Sarr. Maybe we'd have to see what Trey Jones looks like at the NBA, but it's just like, what is he? I don't know what to make of him as a playmaker type guy. Like, what would be his? Did I just call him Trey Jones? I apologize.
Trey Johnson.
Trey Johnson. Yeah. What would be Trey Johnson's like NBA comp?
Is he? I think he's going to shoot great. I just don't know if he's going to do anything else. So, what does that look like as a pure 2? Really, probably right. Like he's not someone that's going to.
I think
skew bigger.
I think it's probably like a Tyler Hero. Does that make sense? Like
with that
Devin
much
Booker
on ball stuff.
What's that?
You think he's got Hero's on ball stuff?
I think he can get there, at least as a playmaker. I've seen some people say Devin Booker feels a little rich. I don't think he's Cam Thomas, but with a 3. More of a 3. I don't think that's like the Cam Thomas of 3-point shooters. I mean, not because Cam Thomas has like a really deep on-ball bag that Trey Johnson doesn't just yet. So
it's a weird position. It's a position type that's not in favor, but I think he might be really good as that type of player still.
Right. So I think it's the 2. We have them on screen as Bilal Koulibaly and Alex Sarr. Now, I don't see any of them actualizing that this season, but what I do trust about the Wizards is that they have so many dudes. When you look at Bub Carrington, Corey Kispert, Chris Middleton, and CJ McCollum are on this team. Keyshawn George, Cam Whitmore, Justin Champagnie. Like there's like I really like Will Riley. So there's their big man rotation kind of sucks after Alex Sarr. I still don't know why Tristan Vukcevic is only on a two-way. I'm not a Marvin Bagley guy. Maybe they're just gonna run like freaking small in certain instances without Sarr on the court. I think the problem, the actual strongest argument for me is maybe not the talent. Yeah, they don't have a ton of top tier talent. It doesn't seem like they just have so much of it that I could see them being greater than the sum of their parts. Where it really gets me is I don't know what their identity would be. I don't look at this team and say they're definitely like, oh, they can do this on offense. They could do this on defense. I think they actually have the potential to be like super rangy, malleable, versatile, and disruptive on the defensive end. Just looking at Koulibaly, Sarr, Keyshawn George, I think that for me is where I'm at with them, but I don't feel great about it.
I just think their key guys are really far away still, and even extends to Koulibaly. Like defensively, I think he's pretty close to just being like that's a starting caliber defender, and maybe better than that. Everybody else just seems like we're still in the growing pains stage, and the Wizards should absolutely play all these guys as much as they possibly can, and it'll be bad just because I don't think there's an ace shot creator here, so I think offense is going to be a struggle. I don't think there's like Sarr has potential. I don't think there's an anchor defensively, and certainly not one that won't make a bunch of mistakes. So it's just this is what you get with a young, deliberate rebuild that hasn't quite selected the guy that is emerging as a cornerstone piece. There are options here, but they're really far away. So I went under. Anytime you pick a win total in the teens, it's kind of like statistically that's probably dumb. But I just think they're pretty clearly worse than Brooklyn because the Wizards don't have the Brooklyn option of like we can play 5 NBA caliber veterans if we want to. The Wizards can't really do that.
Yeah, I mean, so they would have, it's Middleton, it's CJ McCollum, and then I guess you're just saying like their young guys are still, like even the Koulibaly who's been there is still so much of an unknown in many respects.
He's more prospect than like current helpful player.
I also don't think schematically like Brian Keefe has shown the level that Jordy Fernandez.
I think that's very, very true. Yeah, I agree with that.
That was a journey for us. It was a lot of fun. I'm excited to go 15-0, which means that you're going to have to go, I think, 12-3 or something. Well, we were in pretty lockstep a lot of the time.
Yeah, so definitely I will be rooting for the Wizards to fail, and you'll be all about them this year, just so you can come out at least one ahead of me.
Did you have a shakiest? But the only thing I was going to ask you was who's my shakiest bet was who did I pick? It was Orlando. I went under on 50. Who was your sort of shakiest? Was it Philly? Feels like the default.
By definition, Philly's shaky, but I'll honestly, Cleveland under. I just don't feel great about because they're going to win 8 fewer games than last year. Like that's hard. That's hard to get to. But Orlando's another one. Like why aren't they winning 50? Everybody thinks they're winning 50.
Well, we did this in under 75 minutes, so you're welcome, or we're sorry for that. But before Grant goes and takes us out, just want to remind everyone to please go check out the Look Ahead series, bounce around Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube. We have a playlist of all the Look Aheads. When this releases, we'll have Miami, Boston, and Toronto left. And so most of the teams are up and out. Go watch and listen to them, please.
Please do. Other call to action, get your over-unders in. Join our Discord. Links for that in the YouTube and podcast description. You can win cool stuff and come on the pod. Like, come on. That'll be fun. And by definition, if you get to come on the pod, you will do that because you beat us. So that'll be fun for you to come on here and, lord it over us or be graceful in victory. It's up to you, I suppose.
What is graceful in victory? I don't know. That sounds so
I was thinking like, what's something in defeat? Like I can't, it's late for me, even though it's 3 hours later for you. So I'm losing my word power. So I'm going to take us out. Rate, review, subscribe, do all that stuff. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Again, do the over-unders. It's fun and it's difficult.
The link to the Google Doc, if you're not a Discord person, but go in the Discord and talk in the Discord. We like seeing when other people are having conversations without us in there. So join the Discord. But the link to the Google Doc, I will put it. Maybe I'll make a community post on YouTube, but go. It's in the podcast and YouTube description. It takes like, what? You're just going over-unders. We're not asking for record projections. It takes you 3 minutes. So go in there.
I threw darts. It was I really took took the thinking out of it.
That was very clearly based on your Wizards analysis. Like that became very clear.
Shouts Frank Ntilikina, apologies Jared Allen.